Well, ladies and gentlemen, August 16th, Senator Jon Ossoff, if you haven't heard, he went after President Trump's longtime aide, Natalie Harp. And boy, has it backfired. I mean, this guy tried to turn a White House staffer into the subject of a political attack on the president without establishing what she'd done, if she had actually done anything wrong. Instead of, putting Trump on defense, Ossoff and his little attack put his entire campaign and, well, his reputation under a national microscope. Listen, when you hear about Natalie Harp, if you don't know who she is, you'll understand exactly why.
While he fruitlessly drains our munitions and oil reserves, the president sleeps through his meetings. He golfs and trades stocks. See, he doesn't want to do the job. He wants to build his ballroom and travel with Natalie on their apparently defenseless flying palace gifted by the Emir of Qatar.
Now, catch exactly what he did there? Ossoff didn't just attack the president over Iran, didn't just attack him over the ballroom. He deliberately dropped the first name on one of Trump's closest aides right in the middle of his attack, Natalie. Now, he didn't give a last name or an explanation. And it's almost like the audience is supposed to know exactly what he's implying. And we do. And that's where I have a problem with it. Because Natalie Harp isn't an elected official. She's not a senator. She isn't running against John. She's a member of the president's staff. And if Senator Ossoff has evidence that she did something wrong, then he should put that evidence on the table. He should name the conduct, show the abuse, show the corruption. But if the entire point is to whisper somebody's first name into a political attack and let everybody else fill in the blank, that's not accountability. It's also not decorum from a United States senator. It's insinuation. And apparently it worked, because by the next day, the question had made it all the way into the Oval Office.
Yesterday, Jon Ossoff said you'd rather travel with your aide, Natalie Harp, and build the ballroom than do your job as president. What is your response, Jon Ossoff?
You mean Pee Wee Herman? Pee Wee Herman lookalike?
There it is. Ossoff throws the line, press carries it right to the president, and Trump gets asked about it directly. Now, suddenly, Natalie Harp, a person almost nobody outside of the Washington, D.C. political beltway knows anything about, is sitting in the middle of a national political story. That part's important here because Senator Ossoff is not some random Democrat with a podcast. He's a sitting U.S. senator. He's running for re-election in one of the most important states in the country. And this is happening less than 3 months before his midterm. And the Wall Street Journal, they were quick to cover this in an episode, and they called it a political brawl centered on Harp after Ossoff's Sunday speech. It also notes that Harp is one of Trump's closest aides and is frequently at his side handling information and helping with his communications. So, folks, let's talk about Natalie Harp, okay? Because this is the part of the story that Ossoff is betting that you all don't know. Now, I know Natalie Harp. She is one of the sweetest people you'll ever meet. She's been around the president for years. And their relationship didn't begin because she was some Washington insider climbing the political ladder. It began with something intensely personal. Natalie had a rare form of bone cancer. Back in 2019, President Trump publicly brought her on stage while discussing the right to try law. Harp told the audience that she had been seriously ill and credited access to treatment under that. And she gave President Trump accolades because she felt like he gave her another chance. And Trump publicly told her in her story, okay? He called her an example of why he fought for that law. I'm not making any medical claims here, okay? I don't know the intricacies. What I'm telling you is that Natalie Harp publicly said that President Trump gave her another chance because of the law. And their relationship has history. This isn't someone who suddenly appeared next to the president 2 days ago. Okay, she publicly supported the president for years. She believed that one of his signature policies had personally impacted her life. And eventually, she became part of his political operation and then ultimately part of the White House staff. So when you see her around President Trump constantly, there's actually a documented story behind that relationship. And that's why I think Senator Ossoff may have stepped into something here that he's not going to be prepared for because he has no accusation. Okay, take away his shitty little grin, strip away his worrying, strip away the internet gossip. What is Senator Ossoff actually alleging Natalie Harp did wrong? Because I haven't seen him establish anything. Okay, what he's established is that she travels with the president. She's his executive assistant. That's her job. Okay, people who know the president and been close to him have known Natalie for a long time. Okay, she's a staple to what he does. Now, there's a lot of reporting identifying her as Trump's executive assistant and describes her as one of the, aides that are most consistently at his side. That's true. Okay, but if the argument is that Trump travels with one of his closest executive aides, okay, and I mean, he's an executive. Anybody who's ever run a major organization understands the people closest to the principal are always around them constantly because in her position, she provides information, and that information is constantly on the move. Now, look, Senator Ossoff can attack President Trump. Fine, it's politics. Okay, he's free to go after Trump, his decisions, and attack the Iran policy, attack the ballroom, whatever. He can run against Trump's agenda every single day between now and November. But dragging someone like Natalie in and start, using suggestive language about her, I think that standard changes. Because otherwise, if you're not producing some accusations, you're just inviting other people to imagine stuff. And this is where Democrats sometimes make a strategic mistake against Trump. They become so obsessive with making everything around him look sinister that eventually they can't attack ordinary things because Trump is involved. Right? A staffer close to the president? Come on. Suspicious? Give me a break. A staffer is loyal to him? Oh, that's suspicious. Folks, look, I don't have to explain this to you, but loyalty to your boss is not a federal offense. If Democrats want to make Natalie Hart part of the 2026 midterm campaign, then Republicans should make sure voters know the whole story. Not the gossip, but the actual story. Because this lady is a trooper. She publicly battled cancer. She publicly stood up for President Trump and the right to try policy. She gave her testimony, gave her access, and he gave her access to treatment when she thought that she was running out of options. And she became intensely loyal to the president afterwards. Now it works for him. You can think that loyalty is excessive. You can think that Trump keeps too small of an inner circle. You can criticize how the White House operates. Whatever, that's legitimate if it's your criticism to make. But those are different arguments than suggesting something improper is happening without proving it. Well, there's another piece here that I think matters politically. Look at who Ossoff is talking to. He's running for re-election in Georgia, and Trump is already targeting him directly. Trump was in Georgia in July, campaigning against him, and he mocked him, called him Pee Wee Herman. And he supports the Republican challenger. So this isn't some abstract Washington feud. It's part of the Senate race. And Ossoff clearly wants to turn this campaign into something bigger than just Georgia. He wants to become one of the national Democratic voices that are standing up against President Trump. And that's fine, John. Fine. That's the battlefield. Get on it, man. But the difference between going after President Trump, who is able to kick your ass all over and down that field, and going after an innocent staffer and using her name to create an implication that you can't substantiate, that's foul. Because all you have to do is look what happened immediately afterwards. The reporter takes that insinuation right to Trump. Trump goes right back at Ossoff. The White House explodes over this question. CNN, they come out and defend their reporter. And now national outlets are writing stories about Natalie Harp. That's the political mechanism here. Ossoff took somebody who was largely invisible, okay, and made her part of his little fight. The White House, unfortunately, had to amplify it because it had to give a response because the president's going to protect his friends. Now, could Democrats decide that's a win? Yeah, sure, whatever. They're disgusting enough to think that. They can argue Ossoff struck a nerve and whatever. That's what they go for. If your goal is attention, you get it. You got it. But if your goal is to provoke Trump in the White House, you're going to get that too. And politically, sometimes provoking the president into this bigger response is good for them. And I get that. That attention isn't persuasive. And that's the part that we don't really know about yet, right? Because now there's millions of people who have never heard of Natalie Harp, and they're going to start asking obvious questions. Who is she? When they do, they're going to Google it. They're going to see her cancer story. They're going to discover Right to Try. They're going to discover why she became loyal to Trump. They're going to discover that she's actually his executive assistant. And then Ossoff's clever little Natalie line has to survive contact with the rest of Natalie's story. Maybe Democrats hate it. Maybe they love it. Maybe swing voters think it's funny. It's possible. But maybe people look at it and say, wait a minute. You're a United States senator. You're trying to keep your seat, and you're dragging this young, innocent woman into a political attack against the president without telling me that, she's did something wrong. Just insinuating it. And then I look her up and find out she's like a cancer survivor. That's disgusting. I think that's going to happen. And I think that's why Ossoff picked the fight that backfired. Picked the wrong target. Again, Trump is fair game. He's the president. He's a big guy. He can fight. Go after his policies, his decisions. The admin is even fair game, okay? But if you're going to put a staffer's name and encourage the country to draw conclusions about her, then you better have something stronger than innuendo, because once people start looking at the person instead of the insinuation, the attack is going to reverse. And in a Senate race, like the one in Georgia, this important, that's not a small mistake. Ossoff wanted Natalie's name in the conversation for a reason. And now it is. Question now is whether he likes the conversation once President Trump steps up to the plate. I don't think he's going to like that too much. R.I.P. Senator Ossoff, asshole, whatever. R.I.P., brother.